Welcome to today's lunchtime learning here on the Embrilliance YouTube channel. Today, we are going to be customizing one of the designs from the Embrilliance project blog to create a unique design such as this. This is going to be perfect to embellish some towels to make for a hostess gift for an upcoming barbecue that I'm going to. The original design is a free download from the Embrilliance project blog. It is the splash that is in the center here. However, was originally intended as a monogram frame or to put an initial on. So there's an empty space on the center. We're going to open that BE working file into our Embrilliance software, add the swirl to it, and then add the customized red, white, and blue lettering on top. What a quick, fun, and easy project that you'll see we can do in just a few seconds in our Embrilliance software. So let's pop on over. Here we have our opened program, and the first thing I'm going to do is open the file that we downloaded from the website. So I'm going to go to File and choose Open. It already has me into the folder where the design is, and I am going to choose the original blank one. Since I've already done this a couple times, we're going to start from scratch. So I'm going to choose the original blank one and click on Open. As you can see, when you open the BE file, it opens in the hoop that it was saved in, which is the 4x4. This was designed to put a small monogram or an initial for a last name in the center of the splash. We're going to be changing up this design. The first thing I want to do is to make my hoop larger. Now, I thought I'd give you guys a tip. If you ever happen to open your software and open a design and, oh my gosh, your hoop is missing, there's no need to uninstall or reinstall the software. What probably happened is that you accidentally hit the H key on your keyboard. H is for hoop. That is a shortcut to toggle the hoop on and off. Now we want to change the hoop to our 5x7. So I need to go to my preferences, browse. I'm going to be stitching on my Brother machine, so I'm going to choose the PES format, and I want my 5x7 hoop. It says underneath my hoop selection here that is approximately 5x7, but it is exactly 130 by 180 millimeters. I will select that hoop, click Apply, click OK, and my design is now centered in that hoop. Before we go any further, I'm going to save my work so that in case something happens, we have a copy of it. I'm going to go to the File menu and I'm going to choose Save Working File because I'm going to continue working on this. And we're going to call it Patriotic Splash, and I'm going to put a -Y2 because this is from the YouTube channel, so that I have a copy of my original still intact, but this is going to be my adjusted one. I am going to add something to the center of this. I'm going to switch on into Create mode. When I go into Create mode, I'm going to be in StitchArtist Level 1. And that is because this is how easy this is to do. It's a Level 1 function. I could merge in a design if I didn't have StitchArtist, but since I do have StitchArtist, I'm going to show you how we can add a swirly section right into the center of this design page. In StitchArtist, there is a flyout menu. When I say flyout, that is the little shape here at the top of the Create menu bar, and it has a down arrow because it flies out. When you click on the down arrow, you will see that there are various pre-drawn shapes available to you. We're going to use the splash one or the swirl one, as you can see in this project. So I'm going to click on the swirl, and as soon as you choose that, it tells the software you're going into digitizing mode. So any of your objects that have already been created in StitchArtist are going to gray out as just object outlines. This helps you see what you're working on a little bit better. If this was a stitch file that we were adding extra stuff to, the stitches would still be there. They wouldn't turn into objects because that's not a capability. But We now have our objects shown here. I'm just giving you a description of what's going on on our screen. I'm going to put my mouse cursor in the upper left click and hold and drag my mouse. And you can see that it is creating a swirl right where I left click and held. When I release my mouse button, let's zoom in so that we can actually see this better because I feel like I'm so far away. So I'm going to hit my little zoom slider and get up a little bit up close and personal. Put my mouse cursor on top of that square that's in the center so it turns into the hand. Click, hold, and move it into the center of my white space. By moving it into the center, that allows me to see how much I need to reshape, enlarge, shrink this shape that I've just drawn. It is just a line art so that it fits in the center space that we have here. I could have drawn with points, but this is what I was looking for. I thought, what a cool way of using this feature. Now it's just a line. I need to assign stitches, a stitch type to this line. If I click off of it, looking at our design, I could go with a simple running stitch, maybe a bean stitch to match the bean stitches, or to kind of coordinate with the more bold parts of the design, I'm going to choose a satin stitch. So I need to select that swirl again, go up here to the top where it says satin border, and assign that stitch type to the satin border. We're digitizing, folks. When I look at the stitches here, it has created a nice even width satin border right along that open shape that we had there. If I go to my properties here, I can see that the width of my satin is set for the default settings, and that's perfectly fine. If I click off of it, you can see that the end points are a default blunt shape. Let's go back to those stitch properties again for the satin border. If you notice here in the center, there is an upside down swoosh. This allows us to change this satin border to have some more customized features. The nibs, which is it's at the end point at the end of either side, the start and the end, those are the nibs, and you have capabilities of changing those to be either round or pointed. But what I'm going to work on today is changing the line thickness. As opposed to being an even width going all the way around, I'm going to choose one of the 8 built-in thickness settings for the satin border. Number 1 is even, 2 goes from narrow to fat, 3 from fat to narrow, and I thought number 5 would be really kind of fun because it would be start off at narrow, get fatter, and then go back down to the narrow, which really gives the similar look to the rest of the design. If you look at the satin columns, they go from skinny, fat to skinny, and without us having to draw that manually, we can use the satin border settings to create that same style. The width of the widest width here, that is set by the width of whatever we have for the satin border. So if you wanted it to be a little beefier, you can use the slider and up the number so that it's a little fatter in that slider and make it a little more robust. However, by doing that, you'll notice that it has changed. The stitches are now not just on the object. They go on either side of it. So it may look like our swirl is a little off center. We can easily adjust this by rotating it using our typical rotation, moving it, sizing it, creating whatever style of center we want for the center of our new design. And let's zoom out and take a look at what we have done instantaneously by just playing with our software and creating it. Since we've done this, let's save our work again so that we can move on and not worry about losing whatever we've done. At this point, I decided I wanted to add the word celebrate to this design. Adding lettering isn't really a digitizing function because we're using the lettering tool. So a force of habit that I've gotten into is once I'm done digitizing, I'm going to click on my arrow to get back into select mode. This way, everything that I have here on my screen is stitches. I'm not going to make any adjustments or do anything strange that would happen. So now that I have my design, I am going to add lettering to it. To do that, I'm going to be in select mode. So I click on the select mode portion and I'm going to click on the letter A to invoke the lettering tool. That automatically puts a lettering object in the center of our hoop. I'm going to move it up to the top by putting my mouse cursor on stitches and simply dragging it to the top of the hoop. Now, I wanted to add the word celebrate. I'm going to type it all in capitals because I really wanted to make a statement with this celebration text. So all in capitals, hit the enter key on my keyboard, and that creates my text here at the center. Now, I notice that it's a little bit too large for my hoop as it is. Before I start sizing anything, the first things I probably want to do with this is I knew I wanted to do circular text so that it arched around the top. And I kind of wanted to use a more funky Western style font from my font list. So I'm going to choose from my font list first, Brand Iron, which is a font from Font Collection 2. And just by choosing that font, the style of the font is narrower than Block, automatically made it fit smaller size. So this is something to keep in mind when you are adding lettering to a design. Choose the font size, the font that you want from your list before adjusting sizes. Next, I wanted to go into circular text or arch it. So I'm going to, while it's select it, I'm going to click on circular text, go down to the radius slider and adjust my radius so that it arches or creates a pleasing arch on top of my design. I think I'll move it down just a little bit. So make sure when you're moving stitches or lettering object, put your mouse cursor actually on the stitch itself, because where you place your mouse cursor is rather important. And I need to bring that up because now as I'm looking at the spacing of my text, in this particular example of this particular font, and this particular radius, it looks like there's a little bit of extra space between the T and the E. So I'd like to scoot that E and the exclamation point over just a little bit so that it matches. I think it's going to match more by moving it over. If I select the center selector of the letter E, notice that there is a lower triangle. That lower triangle allows me to click hold on that triangle and it will move that letter and all the rest of the letters after it along that same radius. So I can't move it up or down, but I can move it along that radius, which means I can zip it in just a little bit closer to the T so that it looks like it was more planned this way to be a little bit closer as opposed to being further apart. Isn't that kind of neat? Now, when I do that, or as I have that done, I'm looking at my text and I'm thinking I could make it all one color, but wouldn't it be neat if it was red, white, and blue and alternating letters? Let's zoom in on I have my lettering object selected and let's zoom in on it. So I'm going to hit the S key on my keyboard while the lettering object is selected. And that zooms in just to whatever is selected. Nice shortcut to learn. Now, if I select my lettering object, I can go to my color chip and that would change the colors of all the letters. But I want to change alternating letters. I want my C to be red, the E to be white, blue, red, white, blue, and I want them to all be different colors. If I select the C with the center selector, you'll notice that I can click on the color chip and that will allow me to change the color. If I hold down the Control key on my Windows keyboard or the Command key on my Mac, I can now click on another center selector. and that would also select that letter. So this one is red, white, blue, red, white, blue, red, white, blue, red. So I've selected every third letters, and they're all highlighted, and I have one color chip. I can click on that color chip, and normally it will open right into my thread palette, so I can go and scroll through whatever color I want to choose. However, if as opposed to using threads, I can click on palettes, and this allows me to choose a color from the current page. So I can select on that red color, click OK, and now those letters have been changed to the same red that's used in this design. I'll go through and choose the next cut letters. So the E, these three, click on the color chip, choose the blue, click OK. Select the L, the R, the E, colored chip, white, click OK, and I've easily made my Celebrate into a multicolored design. Wasn't that easy? Now, if you notice, I still have my lettering properties by doing in that way. So if I needed to adjust spacing or move things around, I can still do that because I have not broken my lettering object. Let's zoom out by clicking on compass rose and clicking on the H. I'm ready to go to my machine. I'm ready to stitch this out. I'm looking at it, I'm admiring it. Yes, I'm ready to stitch. However, I look at the number of colors in this design, and I can automatically see from the color list here that it is going to stitch blue, red, white. It's going to multiple colors in multiple orders, and we don't want to do that. This is a perfect example on why you would want to use the color sort function of Embrilliance Essentials. If we go, that is done by going through the utility menu and choosing color sort. However, before I do this, I notice up here at the top that I have an asterisk. That means I haven't saved my design. So I'm going to hit the little floppy disk here on my save button. That just saves whatever work I've done so I never have to do it again. Now I'm going to go to the utility menu, choose color sort. It brings up the dialog box, and it asks, and what this dialog has done is it's saying that I have pulled the stitches out of the design you're looking at, sorted them by color, and now what do you want me to do? Well, I'd like to look at it. So I'm going to click on the new view button. That opens up a brand new design with no name on it. If you notice, we still have the first one here. This one is sorted by color. So I'm going to click on the little down arrow. It's going to stitch all the blue first, then all the red, then all the white. I'm ready to go to my machine. So I want to make sure I save this to my USB. But notice that I don't really need to save the working file of this sorted one because there's not really much I can do to it. I can't click on the lettering object and move my letters. That is why we save the working file of our original design, because that has those controls. This sorted stitch file is ready to go to the embroider machine. So I'm going to go to the File menu, choose Save Stitch File As, put in my USB, save the stitch file to the format that I need. It's going to send these 3 colors to this USB, put it in my machine, and stitch out my design. So that is one of the reasons why you want to save a sorted stitch file directly to the USB, and make sure that you save your working file to your computer in case you need to work on it in the future. I hope that you found this session on creating a customized design very helpful. We covered many topics, including how to add lettering, circular text, how to digitize in StitchArtist Level 1, and then again, do a color sort and head off to embroider machine. Wasn't that easy? Thanks for taking some time with me today. Please check out the other videos on our YouTube channel, as you'll learn lots of other easy tips and tricks that you can do in your Embrilliance software. Take care. Bye.